sun. The mountains that laugh with the gypsy clouds, the fields smile to welcome the sun. All nature sings praises aloud. The fields smiles to welcome the sun. All nature sings praises aloud. The trees dance to show their elation. A day on God's earth has begun. On every true heart in creation, in speechless wonder is bowed. On every true heart in creation, in speechless wonder is bowed. Well done, Lord, oh very well done. The joy that you've planted in children's hearts, the thrill known in bearing a son, the hope when a trial departs. The thrill known in bearing a son, the hope when a trial departs. The gladness of man in their neighbors, of youth in its victories won. Our joys are the proof of your labors. How wonderful, Lord, are your hearts. Our joys are the proof of your labors. How wonderful, Lord, are your arts. Well done, Lord, oh very well done. At last I discovered the mystic key, the world's joy, oh secretive one, replies to your sweetness in me. The world's joy, oh secretive one, replies to your sweetness in me. For here in my heart lies the answer, your love shedding light like the sun. All life seems to leap like a dancer, when gazing I see only thee. All life seems to leap like a dancer, when gazing I see only thee.
Well, good evening once again. It's always lovely to start with a song. Today we are going to talk about the second chapter, a chapter that we don't necessarily speak often about. And these verses come after one of the times that Arjuna gives Krishna all the reasons of why he should not fight, why he will not fight actually, and of course expresses his confusion to Krishna. And as we know, the Gita is a great scripture, but it is also a great allegory, and Arjuna represents all of us. And it is fun because Arjuna gives so many good reasons of why he should not fight, why he should not kill, his cousins, he should not kill his teachers and all that, and they seem so reasonable, especially at that time where the honor system was different than it is right now. And still Krishna tells him, well, no, you have to fight. And I think in a way, obviously, most of us who have followed the Gita of Yogananda know that he's not talking necessarily about real people that is fighting. If I come too close to this, there's a lot of feedback that comes, so unless we lower the volume of the microphone. So even though we know it is not necessarily about, he's talking against real people as well, but he's also talking about us fighting this psychological battle, to fight against our tendencies, to fight against our attachments, all those things that we consider to be our family because we consider to be who we are, that we identify ourselves with that. But nevertheless, I think in a way also Arjuna is very creative, like all of us are creative, that all of us are very creative in why we should keep our delusions, or why our delusions are not actually delusions. It is very funny how many ways we find to justify what we are doing, or to really not fight the battle in the spiritual path. So, this is chapter 2:11. With words of love and seeming wisdom, this is Krishna speaking, you have been grieving over those who deserve no lamentation. The wise mourn neither those who live on earth, nor for those who live it. Nor are we here in this world for the first time, I, you, these royal ones whose possible death you lament. None of these have not lived here before, nor shall any of them ever cease to be. As the ego keeps the thread of self-awareness unbroken through infancy, childhood, youth, and old age, so also the embodied soul, which gave consciousness to the ego, maintains its awareness uninterruptedly, not only through the stages of earth life, but through the appearance of successive bodies. Of course, Krishna is talking about nobody ceases to be. We all know this teaching that we don't die, we just go to the astral world and eventually come back, and so on and so forth. We go back and forth, over and over again until we learn the lesson of life, of all our lives, and we finally merge into the infinite, and we are not bound to reincarnate anymore unless, like Krishna, like Arjuna, like Yogananda, Ramakrishna, and other great avatars, decide that out of goodwill, out of just the desireless desire to help humanity, we want to come back just to help those who are in need. Also, Krishna is speaking here of another high truth, because as I was saying earlier, we are very, very attached and very crafty in keeping our attachments and keeping our delusions, no matter how little we are. And then until we realize that really, in order to find God, we had to give everything. As Sister Gyanamata says, she realized she had to give those things that didn't bother anybody else, that didn't seem to do anything wrong for her, but even those little attachments, everything has to be given. And it's such a hard thing, and it's such an important lesson that we all have to remember and learn. But Krishna is telling us that nothing ever ceases to be. Because the main thing that all of us tell ourselves is, if I'm not doing this, what will I do? This is the only thing that I know how to do. But this teaching says that once you release those attachments, that energy will not die. That energy will only be transformed into something else. And hopefully it will be transformed into something positive. Because it happens very often that we so-called overcome a delusion only to be bound to something else that came from the release of that energy that we were not able to put in a positive direction. So it is important that more and more we learn how to put energy in a way that will help our spiritual progress. And there are many ways of that. I had the good fortune that somebody lent me a keyboard. And the nice keyboard that I can learn how to play. And I have found it in the past few days that is so useful. Because once I even try, because I'm not very good at it yet, even trying to play Swamiji's music in the keyboard, it just brings me so much upliftment that automatically energy doesn't want to go into those other distractions. And this, obviously, I found for myself is a very constructive way to put my energy, to focus my energy. Because no matter how wise it is, we should not play with Maya, with delusion. Most of you probably know that story in the Mahabharata of Yudhishthira, who gambles with Shakuni, right? And there you have Yudhishthira, supposedly his dharma, he is the one who knows the best. And he gambles everything away. And obviously, he already knew that he was going to lose. He already knew that Shakuni was going to cheat and was going to load the dice. And he was going to lose everything. But still, he did it. And this really represents of us playing with Maya. Shakuni, in this case, represents Maya. And no matter how wise we think we may be, in the end, if we play with Maya, we are bound to lose, no matter what. But it's very interesting because also, as devotees, in the back of our minds, we also know this. We also really know that we cannot win in the end, that even this is not helping us, but still we do it, isn't it? We know that it's not good for us, but we are trapped. But it's not something that we have to, beat ourselves for it. We have to, yes, accept it. Okay, I'm not strong enough, and move forward. There is a very wonderful story that is in Yogananda's lessons that I really enjoy, and I'm going to tell it to you. It's about a hunter. This hunter, he was a very greedy hunter, that he used to go to the forest of Bengal just shooting birds. He used to love to kill birds for sport. Left and right, everything in his path was gone. But he didn't even use the birds for anything. He was just enjoying the sport of it. And this went on for some time until he realized that when he went to the forest, there were no more birds. Now, the birds were still there, but they had become very aware of his presence, and they would fly away much before he even came to where they were. And this man became so enraged that the birds were so smart to outwit him, and he was really, really frustrated and shooting everywhere just, to relieve his anger. And then he decided to walk by the forest, in the forest, until he came into a small lake. And then, to his great surprise, he saw there was a big flock of birds there at the lake. But he saw they were all around a hermit or a swami. This swami was dressed in orange, so he knew it was a swami. This swami, obviously, he had that kind of love that animals around him will come to him and they will be in harmony with them. And, obviously he didn't start shooting the birds there, but being a clever hunter, he got an idea. Oh, well, maybe if I dress myself also as a harmless swami in orange and cover myself and go to the lake, maybe the birds will also come to me. And that way, then I can kill them. It wasn't a very high consciousness plan, but it was a plan that he had. And so, he was like looking at the saint. He could barely walk because all the birds were around him. And yes, this is bound to work. So the next day, obviously he didn't see any birds. But when he went to the lake, the saint was not there. And he decided to dress himself all in orange. He covered his face, and then he put all his weapons, hidden within the robes. And he went there and in the lake. And he waited, and he waited. And to his great delight, the birds started coming, all flocking all around him. And he was, so happy about this. But then he realized every time he was about to, remove his disguise and pounce on one of them, and maybe with his knife or with his gun, he couldn't do it. That every time, again, he was going, okay, now I'll do it. He couldn't. Because somehow he felt he could not betray the trust of the birds now, that so foolishly perhaps had gone to him, not realizing that he was a saint. He was not a saint. And so it happened that he started to ponder, to introspect, and realize what he was doing and how wrong he was in doing it. But then he went even deeper and realized, wow, look at this. Even dressing myself as a saint has had so much power over the birds, because the saint already has so much power over nature around him, but also is having so much power over me. Imagine the power the saint must have within him, and the power that he must have even over other human beings. And he started going in this train of thought, and he decided, I cannot do this anymore. And he dropped all his weapons, and he determined to become a saint himself, because he saw the power that the saint had. Until the story ends that he did become a very great man, and then he became known as the Swami, as the saint of the birds, because all birds used to come to him. Now this is a beautiful story, but it also tells us how we can overcome delusion sometimes. And it goes with what Yogananda used to say, that act in this world, meditate as if you were already free. And then go with that consciousness forward. And that is also what this story is telling us. That even though we are not still there yet, we should in a way act as if we were. Obviously not going around and blessing people and saying, oh, and in that way. But we should act with that consciousness of freedom within us. And even in the act of it, we will see that we become more and more free. And then when, desires come to us, when perhaps we indulge in some of them, we can always remember when I was acting, when I was trying to be good, and when I was actually being good and meditating and all this, I always felt happier, wasn't I? And slowly, slowly, through this, we can break all the shackles of Maya.
Thank you, Bara. Good evening again, everybody. And I'll continue from Bara's shloka to the next one. I just wanted to read the next one for you. So this is number 13. So he says, as the ego keeps the thread of self-awareness unbroken through infancy, childhood, youth, and old age, so also the embodied soul maintains its awareness uninterruptedly, not only through the stages of earth life, but through the appearance of successive bodies. So he's talking here of the ego that's with us from our infancy onwards, the soul that's with us from those many lives that we've lived. And I was thinking of this, of, all of us, must have some childhood memory. We think of yourself as a youth, a young child. There are little moments that stay, a holiday or some moment where your parents said something or whatever. Some of us have more than others. We were more conscious than others who are like, I don't barely remember anything. So, but we all have something. And I was, like a few months ago, my parents were shifting houses. So I went to help them pack and, organize things and all. And I found this drawer of, some CDs, the videos they had taken of me when I was a baby. So like 2 years, 3 years kind of thing. And they were very excited, I think. So they had a lot of footage. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. Let me just, look at it quickly. So I was watching. And it was so funny to see. In some way, I was very amused. And today I was thinking about it, that in some way, looking at myself there as a 2-year-old or whatever, 3-year, and my actions, they were kind of very similar to right now. They didn't have much, there was not much difference. Like, there's this footage, my mom is a dancer, so she was trying to make me dance, and my dad's holding the camera, and I'm the only one in the frame. And my mom saying, okay, now do like this, now do like that, and she's not in the frame, you can hear her voice. And I'm standing there with my back to the camera and doing my own steps, and they're going, no, look here, and they're trying to, guide me, and I'm, no, I'm just doing my own. And I was amused thinking about this because in some ways, I don't know if this is a good thing, but it's very similar even today, and just like my mannerisms, my relationship with my parents, the way we interact, whatever it is, that little bit of stubborn, like self-will of how I'm going to do things. And that's, in some ways you look back and that ego, which is there from infancy, youth, what Krishna is saying, through adult, through old age. I mean, in some ways, I guess our personality, our body grows a little. But in some ways, we stay the same, no? We're still always children to our parents, and we're always the same. And that's the ego. Now think of it in terms of the soul, which has come for thousands of years from the beginning, from as old as God himself. And I think our relationship with Divine Mother, with God, is also the same in some ways, isn't it? Like, she must also be seeing us as just the same, that unique expression of herself, until the end, where when we even merge with the infinite, when we become free, we'll still be our unique expression of this divinity that will be free. And that's what will be the spark. But over thousands of lives, we collect a lot of these habit patterns, isn't it? A lot of tendencies. And Swamiji says about it, he says it's very hard to let go of these past tendencies or habits. They just come up in the quickest opportunity they get. There they are. So he was giving an example I was reading the other day. He was saying, you think, I don't want fame. I'm free of that now. And then the soul gets suddenly an opportunity. The person gets an opportunity of fame. And then all of a sudden, he says, you become starry-eyed and you start dreaming of all these and it's just, you've just forgotten again, or what happened to that freedom from that? Now, that's one example, but you can think of it in anything. The smallest little desire here and there, I'm free from that, I'm free from this, and suddenly, poof, it pops up again. And we're like, what is this? Where did it come from? But our path, and that's why Master said, positive, affirm the positive, embrace the positive. So in this case, creating habits that are positive, that are turning towards God, turning towards the light. I was thinking the other day, if, for example, I miss meditation, and then if my heart is saying, I really miss meditation, I miss longer meditation, or, I miss satsang with my Guru Bhais, or I miss listening to my Guru's voice. I'm like, that's a victory, isn't it? That's a little desire in the heart that's come, that's turned towards the light more than any other desire that maybe there are hundreds of thousands of others. But we need to cultivate these positive desires, and that's how we keep moving towards that light. I wanted to share one last little story example. So the other day, somebody was telling me a little suggestion. It was not even anything criticism or anything, it was just a suggestion of why don't we do this way. And I could feel myself getting defensive and, and I didn't, of course, it wasn't anything big, but I went back home later, and then something inside was just saying, why did you have to say, why did you have to respond that way? You could have responded a little bit more positively or whatever. And it wasn't a big deal. It was nothing, big that even happened. But I was just thinking, these are those little, soul wisdoms, the soul whispers that come in of, no, expand, let it go. Don't hold on to mine, it should have been my way and not this way. And, the soul wants us to make harmony. The soul wants us to create joy. The soul wants us to laugh at our mistakes when we have made a mistake. Laugh at it, let it go. Just keep moving. Otherwise, we take it so seriously and we become so caught up in all the little things. And, it reminded me of this story of Master, remember, which he said about the pudding. And there was the couple came to him and they were sharing about, this community that they had tried to make it happen, but it didn't work out. And so they're telling Master that, what happened was one night, some of them wanted tapioca pudding. And then some others were like, no, I want custard. And so it became so emotional, and they all started fighting with each other until the whole community dissolved. And then, so they were telling Master about this and kind of lamenting about the community. And Master just listened and said, well, why didn't you have both? Tapioca and custard. Why did you just choose one? And they were like, we never thought of that. And it's like, if you're in divine light, if you're living in divine light, you see harmony, you see unity, you see the silliness in all these little things. When we're not in that, we see the differences and we get caught up in our little, where mine and more, and I want this and you want that. And so it's so silly, isn't it? But it happens to all of us. And I think that every minute we have a chance. In every situation, we're lucky we have each other also to help each other in this way. Somebody comes and gives a suggestion, someone comes and criticizes even, someone tells you something. It's wonderful. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to let go of all these tendencies we're holding on to. And I wanted to end by reading just a small thing from Master on this, few lines from Master. So if you'd like to, you may close your eyes, take this within. Always remember, you are in His show. Don't have your own desires. Don't think I'm this big man doing all these things. You are part of the show. No sorrows can get you as long as you give it all to God. Give it to God. Give it all to Him. Om.